Hey everybody, today I'm talking about Hansa Teutonica Big Box. Now this is a 2 to 5 player board game that takes 45 to 90 minutes to play. It was designed originally in 2009 by Andreas Steading, but it's been out of print for some time, hence why I haven't been able to play it. But it's certainly a game that I've had on my radar for my duration in the hobby because it has a lot of things that I'm interested in. So Andreas Steading is a really great designer, and this is certainly his most popular and famous game over the years. But ironically, it's the game that I've played last of his. So known for other games such as Firenze, the Staufer Dynasty, Gugong, and the upcoming Stroganoff. So this one is a route building game that takes place on this map of Germany here, set many centuries ago. And the idea is that we are trying to place our little storehouses here, these little trading posts in these different cities to build a trading route and to basically dominate the cities by having the most trade posts there, or if there's a tie, to have the most prolific trade post. Everything is kind of dictated by this player board here, and I will say these are really helpful and explain what you can do on your turn very clearly. So as you can see, we've got a lot of covered up spaces on here with these cubes and discs. But essentially, these are upgradable and will let you do more powerful things as the game develops. So, for example, here, this part of the board here with these envelopes say that at the moment you've got 2 actions, but potentially we can go all the way up to 5 actions should we unlock all those options. This one here means that you can collect 3 cubes back from the general supply into your supply at hand. This one here means that you can move existing cubes or discs already on the board. And this one here, the privilege, essentially means that at the moment I can only build in white cities or white trading posts like this one. But as I get more and more upgrades, I can build in orange, pink, or even black should I need to. So as you can see again, the more difficult it is to build in certain places, you're going to need those upgrades. So what are you going to do on your turn, and how are you going to win? So it is a game where the person with the most victory points is going to win, and you're going to get points in quite a few different ways. So the first way you're going to get points is by basically building into these cities, and then people completing routes on either end of them. And if you had a trade post in one of these cities, then you are going to get points. Another one is by building from route to route here. So as you can see, if you start in Stendal and build all the way across and connect it to Arnheim, then the first person to do that is going to get 7 points, the second person is going to get 4 points, and the third person is going to get 2 points. And there are other ways you can get points as well, such as completing your upgrades here. And finally, the kind of a very significant way you're going to get points is by using this key track here. So as you can see at the moment, for every connected city I have at the end of the game, I'm going to get 1 point. But if I invest in these keys here, I can get up to 4 points per connected city, which again can get you a fair chunk of points at the end of the game. The end game is going to be triggered by either having 10 cities filled, or by somebody reaching 20 points on the track here, but that will just trigger the end of the game. There are still many points to be had after that concludes. So let's talk about the actual mechanisms of the game and how it plays out. So you are going to take some very simple actions in this game, and I will say mechanically it is simple. There isn't a lot of exceptions or anything like that. It's pretty clean on what you actually do on your turn. So your board will show what you can do here. So the first thing you can do is, and bear in mind you get 2 actions to start with at least, is to put one of your squares on one of these routes here, or on a couple of routes like this, and so on. If you ever complete the region or complete the route by filling all the squares, another action you can do is to take them off like so and put them back into your general supply, but one of those cubes will go on one of the adjacent trade posts like so. So if I wanted to do that, I could put it in the city like so, meaning that I now have a trade post there. Then from then on, if anybody completes one of these routes, I will get a point as long as I am the most prolific person there. So if I've got the most cubes there, or again, if it's a tie, if I'm the one furthest to the right. There are some cities, like these ones down here. You see these ones with the kind of golden banners. If you complete those routes, you can either do what I just said, or you can take the corresponding upgrade associated to that route. So as you can see here, if you completed this region, you can forsake putting your trade house here in order to upgrade your player board. So again here, you would take one of these off, put it in your supply, And now you've got 3 actions per turn. So you've got these options of upgrading, as I said, by either doing that one, going over here and getting your route points extended. Being this one here, being able to move your discs more, getting the new privileges, or doing other things. Additionally, here in Quellen, you can, if you have the relevant upgrade, you can get quite a big chunk of points by going there. So that's one of the main actions you can do. So either put squares on the board or establish one of those trading routes by either getting an upgrade or putting a trading post down. Another thing you can do is that you can, say I had a number of squares on the board here. By taking this middle action, I can currently move, for a single action, I can move 2 existing cubes or discs from the board onto another place. So if I really wanted to, I could move these 2 here and jump them straight up here for a single action. And again, if I upgrade it, I could do that up to 5 with 5 cubes should I need to. Another thing I can do is to simply take a bunch of cubes from my general supply, move them into my supply at hand. And by upgrading here, you can do that a lot more efficiently, because you only start with doing 3 initially. But if you get all the upgrades, you can take all your cubes back into your supply with a single action. There are other things you can do correlating to the actions I've explained already. So say, for example, a player had built here and I had built here and here, and I really want to get on this space here. I can spend 2 cubes, one to kick him off, and the other one goes back into the supply because I've displaced somebody. But then this player, as a reward for being kicked off, he would get to place that cube plus an additional one on an adjacent route connecting to this one. So if they really want to do, they can go maybe here or here, or spread themselves thinner and go like this and this. So if you get kicked off somewhere, you do get an incentive and a bonus for being kicked off of spaces. The discs here are important because not only do they let you get into certain trade cities like this one, you do need a disc here, but the discs are good because if they're ever removed, then you have to, or the person kicking you off will have to play an additional cube, but you'd also get rewarded by placing an additional cube, like I mentioned earlier. So they're really good for blocking and good for getting those kind of displacement bonuses. And that is basically going to be the flow of the game until, as I said, one of those end game conditions are going to be met by having 10 cities completed, by somebody meeting 20 spaces, 20 victory points. Or you can also, if you run out of these bonus tiles, because as you can see, some of these routes have bonus tiles associated to them, where if you complete that route, you get the bonus tile, which can let you do some pretty strong things, such as moving discs around in cities, getting bonus actions, just moving people out of your way for free, and so on. So they are pretty worth having and can give you quite a lot of stroke in the game, and a good kind of contingency plan should you need it. So yeah, pretty simple mechanically. So let's talk about how I think about the game. So first off, let's talk about those mechanisms. This game is certainly a game that's streamlined. There isn't anything here that's going to be confusing. It's all pretty much playing straight from the book, not any exceptions, any fiddly rules, anything like that, which is nice. It's certainly not a game that you need to keep going back to the rulebook to understand and explain, and the depth here is embedded in a pretty simple, straightforward rule set with a lot of scope for upgrades and things, because, as I said, the game is actually pretty concise and quite quick from start to finish, meaning that you're not going to be able to get all of these upgrades, but at the same time, all these upgrades are really worth having, because if you want to go here and you want to get these discs, because the discs are important because they let you get into some cities and they give you really good, to stop people blocking your routes or to shove them in the way in order to make people pay quite a lot to move you out of the way. They're really a really useful tool to have. Additionally, certainly towards the end of the game, you're going to be wanting to get these key upgrades, because your route building is going to be so strong by then that you want to get as many points as you can for doing so. The privileges are important because the initial white spaces are quite scarce, and before you know it, you're going to need to be getting into these more expensive regions, and getting the leg up on those is going to be important to get places faster than your opponents do. This action here to get your resource or to get your cubes back into your supply at hand is really important, because You don't want to be wasting loads of actions to bring them back into your supply. You want to be doing that, as quickly and efficiently as you can. And of course, having more actions in general is going to be really important because, if a person's taking 4 actions per turn and you're only taking 2, then naturally they're going to have a leg up on you. So I really do like that everything here is an extremely strong incentive to have, and it's completely worth having. And being kind of tunnel visioned and focusing on one can be really beneficial because you can be really strong at a certain thing and get the additional points, but being well-rounded is equally as beneficial to to be a jack of all trades. So I really do like that. And bearing in mind the scarcity of these trading posts and weighing that up with how quickly you want to upgrade your player board to hopefully pay off long term, there's some really strong decisions here. Also the incentive in terms of player interaction. This is a game where you are forced to interact with each other. It's got a little bit of a nasty vibe to it, but in a way that's not or not polarizing to the feel of the game itself. It's certainly a game that player interaction of that meanness goes hand in hand with it, and I think you need to embrace that when you get playing it, because when you block routes off, by doing such a thing like this, you're not just doing it just to screw over your opponents. You're doing it because if they pay to kick you off, they're wasting resources, but additionally you get the additional bonus of building in the adjacent routes. So it's certainly a game where that mean edge is part and parcel with what the game is all about, and it isn't just destructiveness for the sake of it. So be prepared that it is a game with that kind of mean edge, but it's not one that's going to make you feel regretful or remorseful for doing anything. In terms of balance, I think it's really well done. As I said, the factor that everything is so scarce and lucrative so quickly is great. You do want to be here quicker than other people, because if you build up, if you get the trade houses in early, and naturally people are going to want to keep getting action upgrades. If you're the majority, you're going to keep getting points faster and faster as people go there. So you've got to bear in mind that, I do want to upgrade myself, but am I going to keep rewarding my opponents by doing so because they're controlling the adjacent cities? Again, all the balance of all the different upgrades are really important because they're all as equally as lucrative. And so, in terms of balance and different routes you can go down, different strategies and different paths, it's really well done, delicately balanced, and certainly isn't a stronger route that you can go down. Almost has not an abstract feel, but a pretty transparent vibe to it, where there's not any hidden information. It's all out in the open. So in terms of strategy and depth and tactics, that you're not going to get caught off guard by a cheeky move that you couldn't anticipate. It's all out in the open. So in terms of depth, and if you like that transparency and being able to predict what people can and can't do, then you're probably going to like this one. The time investment is really good. As I said, the box says 90 minutes to play, but at that three player count, 4 player count, you can probably get it down quicker than that. And it's certainly another game where if you play with or keep playing with the same people, then it's going to speed up, because in terms of actual your actions, there isn't much downtime at all. For take 3 actions, you can just put 3 cubes down, boom, 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 and that's pretty much your turn done, and it's on to the next person. So there is a good sense of pacing here. Loads of, the uptime is fantastic. You're not going to get bogged down with analysis paralysis, because those turns are so snappy, yet still meaningful. So it definitely strikes a good balance there of not just being mindless decisions, but you do have the important decisions, but they're not bogged down in loads of analysis paralysis. So that's really well done. Replayability. You do have lots of routes you can go down, as I said. Are you going to build from side to side here? Are you just going to build a network without taking that in mind? Are you going to focus on getting these upgrades in Quellen and get loads of points this way? Are you going to really focus on getting majorities in all the cities and stuff? So there are a lot of routes you can go down, and that you're going to need that tactical flexibility from game to game. But additionally, with this big box version, you do get the additional maps that were kind of sold separately initially. For example, here you've got the map of England here, which adds very small rules tweaks, but just a different layout and such. So that's really nice. The boards are reversible as well. As you can see, this is a 3-player side. But on the other side, you've got the 4 and 5 player. And you've got an additional German map here as well, like so. So you have got a nice amount of variability in the box, with certain, with lots of different maps to play on, which is nice. The components, I think, are really nicely done. I think that maybe the discs and cubes are a little bit small, but that's a complete nitpick. The cardboard stock is really good, and I will say from a visual standpoint, I always thought this game looked a bit bleak and a bit dry, but seeing it in person, I think it's absolutely really good looking. I love the way this looks. It has a really nice texture to it and a nice throwback Euro feel, which I know this is going to be polarizing and people will probably think, that looks boring. But for me personally, this is right up my street. I love the way the game looks. It's all clear, the roads are clear. There's not really much scope for confusion or anything. I think it's just really well put together and constructed. And I'm not sure if this has had a slight new lick of paint and maybe slightly brightened up from the original version, but I can only speak about this version. And I think it looks fantastic. Obviously, in terms of theme and setting, it's a very dry Euro. It's not about the theme. It's just one of these medieval route building games about trading and such. Yeah, it's got no theme here. It's as dry as can be. But I'm sure if you're watching this video, you don't really care about that. Setup and teardown time is fantastic. I mean, all you need to do is set up your player board, and you're pretty much good to go. So in terms of setup and teardown, there's really not much to think about, and you can get going in less than 5 minutes. There's actually not a whole lot of components in general. You've just got each player's cubes and the board. And obviously you've got these discs here as well, which are used to give the bonuses, etc. And I should say, when one of these bonuses are taken, they do get replenished with new ones, and they are really worth having. So that's another kind of meaningful decision to go down. You might just choose to divert to get a really important bonus. In sense of progression, I think it does a really good job because you are constantly upgrading your player board, getting more bang from your buck each turn, getting more of the lucrative cities, and so on. And the jostling for position for control of the cities is there, trying to constantly extend your network, but people getting in your way. So I really do like the sense of progression and the upgrades and the almost engine building aspect as you go along. That is really strong in this one. Scalability as well. It doesn't come, or this big box version doesn't come with a 2-player variant, but I think there is an official 2-player variant from the initial print. I haven't tried it, I'll be honest, but I think you can play it 2-player just by putting some blockers on the board, etc. But it's kind of a bit of a shame that it didn't come in the new rule book. But I probably wouldn't choose to play this at 2 players anyway. That 3 to 5 player count just works really well, and I like the way that the game does come with 3-player boards, just to tighten things up just a little bit. In terms of comparisons, this does really stand on its own. I can't think of anything quite like it because, as I said, it does have that dry, transparent, almost abstract nature to it, whereas a lot of these route building games don't quite have that. I certainly can't think of anything directly to compare this to, but I will say it does have that throwback feel to it of one of those Euros that didn't really care about you having to get in other players' faces and didn't care about getting the claws out and screwing your opponents over. And I think that's quite a nice approach, and it's kind of rarer to see that nowadays as more Euro games become more and more multiplayer solitaire. But this one, as I said, it's more of a throwback, and it has a bit of a timeless feel to it in that way. And that pretty much concludes my thoughts on Hansa Teutonica. So let's get into what my kind of final verdict is. Now, this game is a game that's been revered. It's stood the test of time. People have talked about this for, I think 11 years now or 12 years, as it came out in 2009. And I can certainly see why. This is so strong. It's streamlined. There's tactical decisions. There's strategic decisions. The satisfaction of doing more for your turn as the game goes by is really fun. Yes, there's some interaction here, but doing it is, as I said, it doesn't feel penned in or just kind of just botched in there for the sake of it. It's engaging. It's quick. Turns fly by. And it's just engaging from start to finish. It really does have that vibe of a game that's going to stand the test of time, which has already been proven, and certainly a game that isn't going to date and age like a lot of games do nowadays. It's 12 years old, and it still feels extremely fresh. Just those simple, clean actions that are easy to teach. but with some real deep strategic gameplay. And for me, that is just all those kind of games are becoming harder and harder to come by as more and more games come out. And that is just massive praise for this design. Now, I do generally like Andreas Steading games. A lot of his designs have gone down really well for me, and this one is noticeably his best design, at least in my eyes. Maybe close with Firenze, but I would give this one slightly the edge, as I think it's just a slightly cleaner design with simple boiled down mechanisms that have been streamlined to a T without sacrificing on any gameplay. Just a cutthroat game that just works extremely well, and I'm very happy I finally got to play this one. Certainly lived up to the tremendous hype it's had over the years. And I will say, I did kind of feel like this game wouldn't be for me because of those competitive or in-your-face player interaction. But it definitely landed for me, and I enjoyed it quite a lot. So that's Hansa Teutonica. Certainly, I think is going to be a mainstay, or at least a long-term stay in my collection, because I think it's just a timeless design and one that isn't going to date anytime soon. I hope you enjoyed this review. This one certainly gets my shield of quality. It's just a brilliant design. If you have enjoyed the review, please hit like and subscribe to my channel, and check out my other videos too. For everyone else, I'll see you next time on Chairman of the Board. Bye.